Hello and welcome to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. I would invite everybody to rise and join Council in O Canada. Thank you, everyone. Please make yourselves comfortable. The town of Oakville is located on treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and we thank the Mississaugas for being stewards of this traditional territory. By 1820, the Mississaugas began welcoming settlers from all over the British Empire. Soon, Oakville was welcoming Black people fleeing the United States. Our Indigenous white and Black residents created a community of harmony that makes us proud. By 1857, Ontario recognized Oakville as a town. At Town Hall, we fly the flag of the Mississaugas with the flags of Oakville, Ontario, and Canada to acknowledge our origins. The vibrant livability we are creating for all attracts people from across Canada and the world. We feel sorrow for acts of racism and intolerance suffered across the world, including Canada and even here at home. We want our future to be equitable and inclusive for everyone. We believe the path of truth and reconciliation can unite us. Please keep well, stay safe, and let us on Council know of any chance to be helpful to you and yours. And please let us know anytime you can help increase Oakville's harmony, prosperity, and livability. Mr. Clerk, are there any regrets for this evening's meeting?
Yes, Mayor, Councillor Nanda.
Thank you. Councillor, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Mr. Clerk, there are no declarations showing. Council, it would be terrific to have a mover and seconder to confirm the minutes of the previous council meetings as listed. Councillor McNeese, thank you. Councillor Lischina, thank you. Any objection? Mr. Clerk, there being no objection, the minutes are adopted. Council, to accommodate a delegate who has a delicate matter at home, I'm pulling forward item 11.2, the consideration of the Brawny Road one-way traffic assessment between Lakeshore Road West and Marine Drive. And staff have a PowerPoint presentation followed by our two delegations on this matter, and then we'll have a decision. Madam CAO, do you want to tee up your presentation?
Which is on the parking.
No, we want 11.2.
You want my apologies. Then Lynn Rogers, Director of Transportation Engineering, is here for that presentation.
Thank you very much, Lynn. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Yep. Good evening, Your Worship and Council members. As Jane mentioned, I'm Lynn Rogers, the Director of Transportation and Engineering. And with me is Mohammed Imran, the Manager of Neighborhood Traffic Safety. We are pleased to bring forward tonight the one-way traffic assessment for Brawny Road between Lakeshore and Marine Drive. This assessment study is one of the 3 phases for the overall Bronte Village streetscape project. The one-way assessment is the first phase that reviews the feasibility of one-way operations versus two-way operations between this segment of roadway. Council's decision tonight will be then incorporated into the second phase of the project. This phase is the Bronte Village Streetscape Study that will propose streetscape improvements within Bronte Village. This study will be presented to Council later this fall. The third and final stage is the design and construction of the road improvements, which is subject to the 2026 capital budget process. If approved, the design for these improvements will begin in 2026. With that, I will hand it over to Mohammed Imran to present an overview of the one-way assessment study.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers.
Good evening, Mayor Burton and council members. This presentation, I will be presenting, covering 4 items. First of all, I'll share the study background. Then I'll provide the one-way assessment study details and its findings. I'll share the public consultation results. And finally, our recommendations and next steps. In March 2024, the section of Bronte Road between Lakeshore Road and Marine Drive was converted to one-way southbound to accommodate construction staging for 85 Bronte Road development. Before this operational change, we had been receiving safety concerns about the intersection of Lakeshore Road and Bronte Road due to its skewed geometry, which was contributing to sightline issues at the intersection for northbound and southbound left-turning vehicles. In 2024, Council asked staff to conduct an operational assessment to find out if the one-way southbound operation on this section of Bronte Road should be made permanent, and approved budget to conduct the study. The purpose of this work was to identify the most effective and safe configuration to include in the streetscape design. We engaged a consultant in March 2024 and started the study. The study scope included reviewing collision history, traffic operations, intersections and roadway geometry, sight lines at intersections and driveways, operational impacts of driveways near intersections, and turning movement patterns. Analysis also included both current and future traffic conditions, factoring in the trips generated by current ongoing developments. Primary focus was on the section of Bronte Road between Lakeshore Road and Marine Drive, looking at the operational impacts on surrounding intersections due to traffic redistribution if it continues to operate as one-way southbound. Collision analysis included comparison of the collision data before and after one-way change. Collision review shows that no specific trend in yearly frequency of collision in the study area except at the intersection of Lakeshore Road and Bronte Road. This intersection had higher angle collisions before temporary conversion to one-way southbound than during the one-way operation. From 2019 to 2024, when Bronte Road was operating as two-way, we recorded 36 collisions at the intersection. 20% of these angle collisions mostly were involving northbound vehicles. Since the one-way conversion, there have been only 2 collisions at the intersection, which indicates the overall one-way configuration has reduced the conflict points and the intersection safety overall. We analyzed the traffic operations at the intersection and mid-blocks in the study area under 4 different scenarios. Before one-way operational change, when Bronte Road was operating as two-way, current one-way operation, future two-way operation with development traffic, and future 2028 one-way operation with development traffic. Both the one-way and two-way configurations provide acceptable levels of service in future 2028 at all intersections except intersection of Bronte Road and Lakeshore Road. With the one-way southbound operation, the existing and future traffic will be redistributed to nearby intersections of Lakeshore Road and Marine Drive, with Nelson Street and Jones Street. These intersections are showing minimal impacts because of the redistributed traffic and will operate at acceptable levels of service. For a future 2028 scenario with development traffic, the intersection of Lakeshore Road and Bronte Road is expected to have excessive queuing. under both one-way and two-way operations. Under two-way scenario, we have two critical movements. Queuing is expected for the northbound left turn and westbound right turn movements during the afternoon peak. Under one-way southbound operation for 2028, with the development traffic, we have one critical movement. Queuing is expected for the westbound right turn movement during the afternoon peak. So as part of the process, we did the public consultation on June 25th at Walton Memorial United Church in conjunction with the Bronte Streetscape Study and Bronte paid parking expansion. Over 80 residents attended the PIC, and we received 44 formal responses from on Bronte Road one-way option. Of those responses, 80% supported keeping Bronte Road one-way southbound, 16% opposed, and 4% were neutral. Many residents highlighted improved safety as a reason for their support. So based on the findings, we are recommending the Bronte Road between Lakeshore Road and Marine Drive remain one-way southbound permanently due to improved safety at the intersection, as it provides less vehicle conflicts points, which can potentially reduce angle collisions. And it provides shorter crossing distance for pedestrians and more space for streetscape enhancements. So next step will be amending the traffic bylaw and incorporating the approved configuration into the Bronte streetscape design. Traffic bylaw will be presented to council in October, and streetscape design will be presented to council in September. So that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions if council members have.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Councillor O'Meara will oblige you with questions, and then Councillor Duddick.
Thank you very much, Imran, for the presentation. Just a couple of questions. First off, so we looked at a variety of scenarios at this intersection, and did that include individual signalized movements at the light? Like, I know you can have individual where it's just north and just south and just. Did we look at that as an option?
Through you, Mayor Burton. Yes, Councillor O'Meara, we did a sensitivity analysis to modify the signal phasing by adding protected left turns or by adding split phasing. So both options are even creating more, like providing more queuing in 2028. Because split phasing is like one movement will have green light, the rest of the three movements will stop. That adds a lot of time to the intersection. That adds to delay. And the protected left turn is not suitable because we need to have a median, to have a dedicated pole for the left turn phasing, protected left turn phasing. And the intersection does not have enough property to accommodate that, and that will impact the streetscape design which is already in progress. Because if we add that space for medians, we'll have to reduce the space for pedestrians because it's a highly pedestrian area.
Okay, thanks. And then we also factored in, I don't want to bring it up, but the development at 85 Bronte Road, we factored in the units there and the potential traffic. And if we were to stay with the two-way, we looked at the impact of northbound vehicles and southbound vehicles who would need to immediately egress across northbound. We looked at how that would be, I guess, how the impacts of that was part of our study too.
Yes, through you, Mayor Burton. Councillor O'Meara, as you presented, like in 2028, with the two-way scenario, we are having left turn movement, which is a critical movement. We are having a lot of delay because the queue is spilling out of the storage lane. So if we, with the two-way scenario, so the left turn queue will be out of capacity, and the driveway, like which is right next to the intersection, about 10 or 15 meters from the intersection, that is, yes, that's a problem. And with the one-way operation, there'll be a less problem for that because they will have to look at only one way of traffic to merge into the traffic, not both ways.
Okay, I appreciate that, and you may not be the right person to answer this, but I think one of the last points on your slide talked about it's a benefit to the next phase, which is the streetscape. Would somebody be able to talk to us just about why a one-way only is more beneficial to what we want to do from a streetscape standpoint, sidewalks, these sorts of things? Is there somebody that might be able to just elaborate on that last point a little bit?
Through Mayor Burton, just to clarify, with respect to the benefit overall, it's not necessarily the streetscape, it's the overall benefit that the design itself has on the overall operations when it comes to all users for the intersection. With the one-way design, which is going to be implemented through the streetscape design, we have the opportunity to minimize the crossing distance to the south. And that way, that does increase, one, the safety for pedestrians and allows for shorter crossing times. It allows for a larger public realm area, the south corner. So I would say overall benefit is comprehensive. It's not just for safety, but also by increasing that public realm area.
So that would be wider sidewalks, maybe more areas for patios, more areas for, because I guess what I'm saying, you've got a defined road area. And if you've got to add two-way traffic and then parking on both sides, I mean, if we're making it for cars, if you have just one lane coming down, we've got more room to do other things. Is that a fair statement or not?
Yes, through Mayor Burton, yes. You do have more area for the boulevard because you're reducing the travel space.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Mayor Burton.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dudek.
Thank you. Just out of interest, from the survey, those who expressed opposition, did they cite any reason for it other than just they're used to the two-way traffic? Do you know, Imran, if there was any particular issues cited?
Through you, Mayor Burton. Councillor Derek, residents, their comments for improved safety. Some of the residents from 102 and 100 Bronte, their comments were it was extremely difficult for them to merge onto Bronte Road when it was two-way, whereas right now it's very easy for them. So primarily, like their comments were about safety, improved safety.
Okay, but I'm saying the ones who expressed opposition to what you're proposing, those are the ones I'm concerned about. The ones who want it to remain two-way.
Some of their comments were they don't want to lose parking because it will be affecting their business. But those comments can be addressed to the detailed design for the streetscape study.
Okay, and again, I know it's premature because we're not going to the next stage. I think this makes perfect sense because that corner has always been horrendous in terms of the turning for the southbound and northbound traffic. My only two concerns are in terms of parity and fairness to the shop owners, that if we're going to provide additional boulevard for somebody to have a patio, other people are having to pay for parking stalls to have that patio. And I guess my concern is we may get pushback from quite a few of the others just south of this area saying, why are you giving that to them without a fee, but I'm being charged? And I guess the other thing I have a concern about is, God forbid we turn around and go back to a two-way, as long as we still retain ownership of this in the municipality's hands, given that we don't want to turn around and have to expropriate property in the future. Those are the only two concerns. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm sure staff will keep note of those things and proceed accordingly. Councillor McNeice.
Thank you, through your worship. Just wanted to ask a question just on the accident data, because I know that a lot of this started through complaints we've had over the years, and the infamous blind left turns in Bronte that even Councillor Dudek knows about next door. So I understand that we did pre-data, two-way, post-data, one-way. In the one-way analysis, we had about, I think, 8 or 10 months originally, up until about the end of next year. But I understand we've been able to get a bit more data as things go on. Is it a few more months? Can you maybe just elaborate to bring us to the most current information we have?
Through you, Mayor Burton. Councillor McNeice, when we started the study in March, we had data until December 2024.
Okay.
Because there's always a lag of 3 months until we get the collisions. So we started the study, but now we have confirmed, we have collisions until February 28th, 2025,
okay.
And there's no collision.
Okay, so no,
So the average will be 2 collision per year, so that's.
okay, so we've got a full year of one-way, and it's 2 compared to, I think it equated to 7 or 8 previously.
7.2, yeah.
And my understanding is severity is sort of less of a concern, because those angled collisions can be, I guess fatal, or less of a sideswipe type thing.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Now, one thing that may come up when we hear from delegates, but so Lakeshore Woods, we've got a few intersections that are roundabouts, and through observing them and stuff, I know it takes extra space and geometry. But have you done any preliminary look do we have space there for other types of measures? I know Councillor Mayer talked about the dedicated left turn lanes, and I appreciate your sensitivity analysis on that. What about a roundabout or something of that sort?
So Councillor McNeese, a roundabout need a lot of property. With the volume that Lakeshore and Bronte Road have, we'll need a 2-lane roundabout.
Okay.
And the in-circle for a 2-lane roundabout is about 45 to 65 meters.
Okay.
So we don't have that kind of property at that intersection to consider it for a roundabout.
Okay, well, I thought I'd ask. One final concern. So my understanding of the consultant's report is that we've actually got a bit more capacity coming southbound because there's less of an impediment getting through that intersection. But I've heard some complaints that may mean that some people are speeding through that light a little bit more because they don't feel that there's an obstruction or potentially someone turning in front of them. Would there be something in here where we'd recommend some traffic calming if it stays one way, or would that come up at the streetscape side of things?
Councillor McNeil, that will be part of streetscape. It will be 1 lane going southbound that will reduce the pavement width. Right now, it's basically 2-way. So that will definitely impact the speeds. That will reduce the speeds.
Okay, so that can be addressed through
Detailed design.
what we got in September. Okay. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chisholm.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question, going a little bit south on Bronte Road. Understanding left-hand turning lanes now from Bronte Road, if we go to the one-way, making a left-hand turn onto Marine, is there a left-hand turning lane there? Because I'm just concerned about backup and queuing if you're going one way on Bronte Road. Is there room for cars to get around on the left-hand turning lane if people are going on to Marine?
Through you, Mayor Burton, Councillor Chisholm, that right now there's no left turn lane, and that's a detailed design as part of once that section is redesigned as part of streetscape. So
This streetscape is going to be wonderful, isn't it? So if I'm just thinking, I'm looking at when I drive down there, would there be an expansion of width of the roadway because of now with the sidewalk expansion? Do we have to pin a little bit wider out into the riverbank to make it more accessible for cars to move?
Through you, Mayor Burton, Councillor Chisholm, expanding it towards the riverbank is not an option. And for always stop intersections, I would never recommend having a left turn lane. Yes, we do have that we grandfathered in, but for always stop intersections, left turn lane is more confusing for drivers. Always stop should have 1 lane in each direction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the registered delegations for this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Gloria Hamblett.
Welcome, Ms. Hamblett. If you come to the center, and the mic can be pulled down so that you can speak into it, and if you do, everybody will be able to hear you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, councillors, and everybody else. My name is Gloria Hamblett. I'm an Oakville resident for 42 years and a proud Bronte Village resident for the last 8 years at 102 Bronte Road. My feeling is that the one-way will go ahead, so I will not address that issue. My opposition was safety, and going forward, still my sole concern is safety. Lakeshore Bronte is a dangerous intersection. Our driveway at 102 would never pass today, but that's history, and we have to deal with it as best we can. I ask you to envision an everyday scenario. You are coming south on Bronte, crossing over Lakeshore, and speed to get through the light. I am waiting to turn into our driveway. mere feet from the corner. I can't enter because, 1, pedestrians are just sauntering across the entrance. 2, someone exiting our driveway and cannot get out onto Bronte Road. 3, vehicle blocking our driveway to pick up cakes and whatever. 4, FedEx parked right on the corner before our driveway. I would have to pull out around the FedEx to then get to see if I can get into the driveway. All the while, cars are speeding through. We are constantly at a disadvantage, and it's not pleasant. Now add to this, when the building goes up on the southeast corner, 188 units, and their entrance will be practically opposite ours. What then? 188 plus cars. Also upcoming, the streetscaping of Bronte, and now sidewalks and bike lanes on both sides. It will be even more precarious. People seem to be oblivious to rules, and I can say this as a pedestrian, a cyclist, and a motorist. I've had near misses with all three at this intersection, but mainly as a pedestrian, with the walk sign in my favor. Vehicle not stopping on the red, coming east and turning onto Bronte Road. I would ask you all, with respect, to take 45 minutes out of your day, sit on the corner and observe. This would be an eye-opener and give you more hands-on than studies and numbers. Cyclists will add to this problem rounding that same corner. Never do they have bells, even though they're meant to be the law, and they're not looking out for anybody. Then you have ambulance and emergency vehicle access, and how will that work? Solutions, the ones that I come up with. Coming east, no right turn on red at Bronte Road. They will still come through it, some of them, but it could solve a partial part of the problem. Second, cameras. Third, roundabout. Not a huge one, a little one like they have on Great Lakes Boulevard. It certainly slows down the traffic, making it safer. My last one is disability parking. I don't believe we have any disability parking down Bronte Road. And the first shop that you come to when you turn south on Bronte, coming from the west, the first shop there is a cake shop. So I think that should be a dedicated disability parking spot. And also the grid going across before that, so that that stops people parking right the way up to our driveway. And I really feel that a $450 fine, which it is, might prevent some of the illegal parking. That's basically all I have to say. I mean, a lot of it has been answered, and Councillor McNeice is well aware of everything on my agenda here. So I thank you for your time, and also for accommodating me earlier.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for bringing your concerns. I hope you heard the staff explain that when we get to the next two stages, we will address these things, and we'll see if those efforts will suffice for you.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Councillor McNeice?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to Gloria for taking the time to come out and emphasize a lot of these things that we've talked about. And just wondering if there's a couple of things I could maybe just throw at staff while we're all here, because what we're talking about here, final design, is a few years out still, and there's concerns right now, and I know we've all been out there, and even our staff has actually stood right in the middle of that intersection trying to figure things out. But I believe it's on the list currently of to explore a community safety zone that would allow us to maybe take some more immediate measures, whether it's the ASC automated speed enforcement cameras, or because even with the one-way, I mean, we still got a lot going on in that intersection. It's still skewed, and you know, we're getting busier and busier. So do we know, is it currently being explored as a community safety zone? I think it was the portion coming down Bronte Road to the intersection.
Through you, Mayor Burton. Councillor McNeese is not the consultant, it's one of the recommendation from the consultant, so we will do the assessment coming fall.
We can do an
We have
assessment?
not done it so far.
Oh,
We'll do
okay,
in
but it
future.
will be, okay, thank you. And actually, on the disabled parking, I did sort of take a look down there, and I think what's happened is there was disabled parking on the east side, and then we brought back some temporary parking there, but I don't believe the disability parking has been brought back. Could we have staff look at that? Just because Gloria's right, the next available one's a block away down at almost at the corner of Ontario and Bronte. I know it's not you guys, but yeah.
Yes, we've had telepathic conversations
Okay.
through the mayor. Yes, we can definitely take a look at the disability parking through that during the interim. Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
and I agree. I think the mayor's addressed the rest. Some of these will come back up in September related to streetscape, and I like the idea of the roundabout, but I understand Imran and traffic volumes, and we wouldn't be able to pinch it. It would take up a lot of space, and I appreciate your analysis, Imran. But I think that's addressed everything, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Sorry, one last thing, just if you.
Be our guest.
Okay, sorry. Related to the bike lanes, I just wanted to clarify that there's no decision being made today on bike lanes. That comes up in September. So I know there's concern. So we're talking street orientation, but it may or may not have a bike lane. We'll wrestle with that in September. So I know there's concerns with that, and we're not making that decision today. So thank you.
All right, thank you again, Councillor. Mr. Clerk, would you call the next delegation?
Dan Carruthers.
Welcome, Mr. Carruthers. Council looks forward to your information.
I'll try and speak up. Can you hear me okay?
Very well, thank you.
Mr. Mayor and councilors, one, I thank you very much for inviting us. You do a lot of hard work. I'm here actually as a resident on Bronte Road, 100 Bronte Road, so I'm right in the middle of the problem. I'm here also representing Harry Shea, who's the president of the Bronte Resident Association. One way is what we support for a lot of reasons. If you live on that street, traffic is very high these days, particularly as the park is in place and what's going on. Trying to get out of our parking lot, if we have to look at both ways, it's a challenge. Mostly because of the trucks and cars that are parked there. You haven't got very good visibility, and I think it just helps the flow of things. If ever 85 Bronte Road actually ever gets going, there'll be 4 driveways, as was mentioned, on that particular street. 102, 2 of them at 100, and then the one across the street. So you can only envision the traffic hazard as people come across Lakeshore and come down and all of a sudden have to stop. So it's going to create more issues and more problems. If it's a one-way, and we do get to the design where it's a wider lane and the opportunity to have a place to turn off, I think that's going to be very beneficial. From a safety perspective, I'm very much supportive of the one lane. I talked to the residents in our building. I talked to the people in the shops. And I think other than losing parking is what the main fear is. Everybody supports the one-way that I can have. Two-way lane, if you have people coming out of 102, is a challenge. And we've faced that before because they come out and then create a backup on that road. So one-way, while it's inconvenient for all of us, seems to be a way that I would like to see it go. And I support the report. And Jonathan and Sean know my opinions very well. Anyway, thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Carruthers. Councillor McNeese.
Through your worship, and thanks, Dan, for your delegation and representing the BVRA as well, or speaking on behalf of Harry there. We certainly wish Harry good health. So just to be clear on losing parking, there's no plan to lose parking. I think we would have potentially more flexibility because when parking's close to some of those entrances, it makes sightline issues. And, you know, Dan, you've certainly let us know about that over the years. And I don't know if, Dan, you're able to speak on this, but one thing I read in the BVRA letter was asking about how we get from whatever decisions made today to the streetscaping implementation, which staff can correct me, but I understand we're talking fall 2027. So we've got, a couple years in between. Is this something that will come back up at streetscape, or is it something you sort of want direction through budget on? Or, if the one-way goes through, how do we kind of get from now it's a temporary arrangement with pylons that's not very aesthetically pleasing and a construction barricade that comes to the curb? We can't control what happens on 85 Bronte, but let's assume that it's not in the fast lane. How do we kind of get from, today-ish to streetscape construction?
Through your worship, so yes, so the intent is to maintain the one-way operation in the interim as you see it today, and as well in the permanent configuration. With respect to interim conditions, we do have that temporary street occupation permit currently in effect through there until December 30th, 2025. For interim conditions, we will confirm with the developer closer to the end of this year to understand if they're going to be proceeding with the temporary operations of the roadway and continuing on with their construction management plan. In the event that they are not proceeding, and as well as the permit expires, staff will be implementing the temporary one-way southbound configuration on Bronte Road from Lakeshore to Marine Drive. And that would include reinstating the temporary sidewalk on the east side, as well as reinstating the appropriate parking on the east side with the interim condition. We would also develop a plan with respect to the roadway design in the next few months approaching December to just ensure that we've covered all our bases and all options coming to the end of that permit expiring. I should note that if the town does proceed with the interim conditions, there will be a total cost and using town forces to implement this and would be approximately $40,000. This request would require funding, and staff would suggest that this request be put forward during the September budget meeting, so staff can consider it under the 2026 budget process.
Okay, thank you for elaborating on that. And just to clarify, I mean, would it go beyond a aesthetic of pylons and the stuff we're kind of dealing with now? Like, are we talking planters on the street? And because I know we'll have sort of a lane of traffic extra, essentially. Are we going to be able to kind of temporary streetscape it a little bit to make it look better than the current conditions?
So the intent, because it is a dynamic construction area, would be to maintain that construction, as you see, is in terms of the temporary construction materials such as the pylons, et cetera. We haven't considered including some, I guess, tactical urbanization on that, but again, the intent was to look how to maintain that one-way operation in terms of again, reinstating the sidewalk as well as those needs of that section of roadway. So to answer your question, no, but again, if it is the direction of council, we will do so.
Okay, and that'll come back to us
Yes.
In a couple months, it sounds like? Or I guess a budget or?
Through you, Mr. Chair. For the town forces to convert into a more beautiful one-way arrangement, if the developer does not maintain its TSO, it will be a request through council from yourself or Councillor O'Meara during the September 26th budget request. Okay. And certainly staff will assist you with that request, and we'll provide you with the revised cost estimate beyond the 40,000.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Thank you, Councillor McNeese and Councillor O'Meara. Any objection, Council? There being none, the matter is adopted. Thank you. We turn now to 11.1, the Bronte paid parking expansion. Council, it's a very fulsome and easy to understand report. We have a delegation, Mr. Carruthers, and with your permission, I'll call him, assuming that there are no other questions. Mr. Carruthers. Welcome back. We look forward to your opinion.
I should have stayed at the mic. I would made a comment about 85. As a resident there, just a little background. We've endured 2 years of mess. Let me finish, because and we went on for 3 years.
It's out of the scope of the item that you're here to speak about.
I appreciate that, but nobody listens anyway. So, the delegation on the parking. Parking is an issue for Bronte, has been for a long time. Both Sean and Jonathan know that I'm on their case all the time about parking. It is a shame that we have to have shops and restaurants post signs to warn people that where they can park. I know in the study that has been done where they've identified a lot of parking in Bronte, but one, it's not very well identified. I know we have some parking down in the marina, but nobody knows about it. We have a lot of space in the marina, but nobody knows about it. In this particular case, we're asking for a small extension of paid parking on 2 streets. I don't think anybody should be able to argue that. But what should be able to argue is that we have no solid parking plan for Bronte. Now, downtown Oakville, you've got lots of parking lots paid by the city. Yeah, some owned ones. I know I use them. When you get to Bronte, the flow of people down there is a little bit different, but is a destination. On the weekends, if you drive around where the parking is, it's a disaster. And it's not local people, it's people from outside. And I think we have to address at some point in time how we're going to deal with parking. It hasn't been dealt with. This extension is a no-brainer. We have to have more parking in the region. And, I'm asking council to, at some point in time, really address the parking issue of Bronte. It's a heavy use area. In fact, there's the whole of Oakville uses this as a place to go to on the weekend. We have events down there. Last weekend, people were parking up on the other side of Reynolds. It's a real challenge, and I think it's about time that the council addressed it. So I'm in support, as is the Bronte Homeowners Association, of allowing parking, but I just wish that council would take this as a serious issue and start providing some parking for the future. Anyway, thank you for your time, and appreciate your work, and I'll get out of your hair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carruthers. It's clear that in Bronte you know how to cook with cheese. I was hoping to get a laugh out of that. Thank you, Sean. I'll look for a mover and a seconder. Councillor O'Meara and Councillor McNeice.
Your Worship, if I can just speak to it very briefly. Thank you. This is it's a great step in a long path to getting to normalcy with parking in Bronte. And in order to build facilities, we need money, and we need to put money into the parking reserve, and then we need to plan it all. And we do have a plan, and it's coming. And this is a great step towards that. And Jonathan and I were at the farmers market on Sunday, and Sovereign was packed block to block with cars and all over, and people want to be there. So it's a great step. It helps move people around. It helps get more patrons into the businesses and shops and move them around. So it's a good thing, and I think we're on side here with the businesses and the residents. So thank you, and happy to move it.
Thank you, Councillor, and Councillor McNeice.
Thank you. I'll just echo what Councillor O'Meara said, and we are a bit behind in our parking in Bronte, but I think we're heading in the right direction. We've had to deal with predatory towing and then booting and these horrible acts that were taking place. We had to put those to bed, which we did this year, thanks to council support. And now we're looking at expanding our paid parking. I believe in my research, it went back to the 60s and 70s that downtown and Kerr have had paid parking and been able to build reserves. We're just getting started. I think it was this year that we made our paid parking pilot permanent and are starting to build those paid reserves so that we can have land and facilities for parking and get them in the right places like other municipalities like us. So we appreciate the patience of the resident associations, people like Dan in the condos there, but I hope you see that we're heading in the right direction. Certainly more work to do as always, but we will get there with your support. So I'll happy to second this with Sean. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. It's a pleasure to hear Bronte understand the role of paid parking in getting to parking lots. Is there any objection, council, to the motion? Mr. Clerk, seeing no objection, that's carried as well. Council, I'd like to pull up 12.2 at the suggestion of one of our members. In the event that you're satisfied with the report and are willing to move the public recommendation in public and not go into camera, and Councillor Hazlet-Deal is offering a motion. Councillor Longo, I think, is seconding. Thank you. The motion is that the resolution contained in the confidential correspondence from Oakville Enterprises dated July 25th be approved, and the mayor as shareholder representative pursuant to the unanimous shareholders agreement be authorized to sign the resolution for and on behalf of the town as the 90% majority shareholder. Is there any objection to the motion? Madam Clerk, there being none, that carries. And that brings us, my friends, to number 9, the consent items. Are there any desires to separate any consent items? Councillor Hazlet-Deal.
Mayor Burton, I'd like to separate 9.4 out.
Thank you. Any others? Can I have a mover and seconder for the rest of, thank you, Councillor Adams and Councillor Knoll. Any objection? Mr. Clerk, there being none, the other consent items are adopted. And Councillor Hazlet-Deal, you have the floor for 9.4.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. I can appreciate that some eagle eyes have figured out that there's a contradiction between 13.2 and 14.3. However, I believe that 13.2 is an important part of our process at Council. It enables us to ask some clarifying questions before a motion's tabled. And while we should not belabor the number of those questions, they do provide an opportunity for us to seek clarification. And they also ensure that those questions are done in the public realm. And I know that my residents appreciate that clarifying questions are asked in the public realm, and that the business of council is more transparent. So while I'm supportive of efficiency, I would suggest that effectiveness is probably the most critical measure of our processes, and we should seek that this information that councillors do require to make good decisions, we should have that opportunity to ask some clarifying questions before a motion is put on the floor. We may so choose not to ask questions at that time, but we should have the opportunity. And our past practice has benefited from this approach, and it's also assisted us in framing a motion more effectively. Of course, all of this needs to be done respectfully and professionally, which is in another agenda item today. But I do think it is important that we be given and retain that opportunity. You know, in the actual bylaw, it reads, quote, "Council desires that its governance processes and procedures facilitate to the greatest extent possible the understanding and participation of its citizens in the effective conduct of the corporation's business," unquote. So when we move to limit the questioning in advance of a motion being on the floor, in my view, we're limiting the public's ability to hear the thoughts and some of the answers that we receive from members of staff. I also want to say that I do appreciate the mayor often will use his discretion and trust that he may do so in the future, even if this was to pass. But I think it's important that it be incorporated and maintained in the rules of procedure, because it shouldn't matter who's mayor or chair. It should be something that we have the opportunity to exercise if we feel that those clarifying questions would benefit our decision-making before a motion is tabled. So while I can appreciate that there is a gap and a need to perhaps adjust for alignment in the procedural bylaw, I would ask my council colleagues to ask themselves, have you learned something from some of those questions that have been asked in advance? I would suggest to you, I know I have. I know that the public has, and I would hope that we would retain the 13.2 procedural bylaw statement before and not lose this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elgar?
Thank you. Through Burton. I have to agree when I read through what we actually earlier asked for, that I think public transparency is important, and the residents have to hear the full decision-making process from start to finish. I think if we don't send this back, that we're kind of moving backwards here of reducing what the residents hear, and that's not what I want to do as a counselor, and I never will do. So I think we probably should, I would say, refer this back to bring these so that we can continue to address things publicly, even if they may be simple questions, but I think the public should hear it. So I would move referral back to readjust what we previously approved to fit that in.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a seconder for referral? Councillor Dudek, thank you. Council, would you please look at section 13.3, sub 6, which I'll read for your benefit. When a motion is under debate, this is in public, a member may ask a question of another member, CAO, or other employee of the corporation through the chair. There is no reduction in transparency. There is no reduction of the ability to ask questions. What happened was, to my eye, in the rewrite of the procedure bylaw that we passed unanimously earlier this year, 13.2 sub 1 was overlooked as a contradiction. In effect, the questions part of 13.2 sub 1 has been moved to 13.3 sub 6, and the result is that the remaining 13.2 sub 1 contradicts 14.3 sub 1, which says that we need to have the item on the floor in public so that the public can hear the full debate and the questions. So I don't know where this confusion came from, that there's a reduction in questions, that you can't ask questions. It's the very next page from 13.2, when it gets you to 13.3, and paragraph 6 says you get to ask questions. So
Mayor Burton, maybe that's where I misunderstood, because I thought the early questions were supposed to be in private channels with staff, which means the important context will be forbidden from residents until after motion is already on the floor. Maybe I misread that completely. Is that true, or am I incorrect?
Questions in 13.3 are very clear that they're in public during debate.
During debate, but to get the information on the motion, like, am I incorrect that we have to go through the private channels first, and that the residents would not hear those questions? That's where that's where I'm having trouble. So if I can still ask the questions in public that I've already asked in private,
yes,
and
yes,
I can do that.
Yes. You are, I hate to call another member incorrect, but your new view of it that you just expressed is how I read the bylaw and how I will enforce it. So I'll call the vote on the referral if the members still wish to move referral. All those in favor of referral, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, Mr. Clerk, would you call the vote by name, and you'll answer yes to refer and no to not refer.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Ramirez? Yes to referral. Councilor McNeese?
Yes.
Yes to referral. Councilor Dudek?
Yes.
Yes to referral. Councilor Chisholm?
No.
Councilor Hazlet-Thiel?
Yes.
Councilor Giddings?
Yes.
Councilor Elger?
Yes.
Councilor Longo?
No.
Mayor Burton?
No.
Councilor Knoll?
No.
Councilor Grant?
No.
Councilor Adams?
No.
Councilor Luschina?
No.
Councilor Shi?
Yes.
We have a tie vote, Mayor, so the motion is defeated.
Thank you. May we, can we put the vote to the main motion? Councilor Hazlet-Thiel.
Mayor Burton, can I just ask if you could put up on the screen, or if the clerk, the section that you're referring to that caused some folks to make the decision that they made?
Sure. (13.3) sub 6, I believe. Is that what you're looking for, Councillor?
I am, and unfortunately, because my e-scribe is doing funny things, I can't, it keeps breaking up, so I can't see the full statement.
Can you see it now?
I can now. So I know that we're going to vote, and everybody's going to do what they're going to do, but I think that the distinction that I think that needs to be clear is that when a motion is under debate, that means the motion is on the floor. And what some of us are concerned with is that a motion doesn't need to be on shouldn't need to be on the floor for us to ask clarifying questions. And in fact, we've all benefited from some of those clarifying questions over time before the motion is tabled. And again, I'll say, I respect the mayor. Mr. Mayor, you've at times used discretion to allow the rules to be adjusted here or there, but this doesn't address the concern, which is if we go back up to 13.2, we would have the right to ask clarifying questions in advance of a motion being tabled. And given we have a policy coming forward that makes considerable effort to encourage us to have to get our answers prior to council meetings, I think it's important that the public understand that we are asking questions of clarification, and we are seeking that clarity before a motion is on the floor at times where we need to. I'll leave it there, but I really think that it's the word under debate. It is not that. It is about when a councillor wants to ask a question in advance of it being tabled, this is eliminating that right. And I don't think that that's in the public or our council's best interest.
All right. To be clear, in paragraph 6, a member is free to say, I asked the question and got this answer. That's a form of debate. A member is also free to re-ask the question if a member isn't willing to just quote the answer a member got. There is absolutely no limit here on a councillor's ability to bring forward that information. And in most deliberative bodies, the practice is that the item has to be in order before we start discussing it. And getting it in order is usually done by having a motion to put it in order. So with that, I hope everybody's reassured that you're not losing anything. You retain all of your powers to ask questions and to share the information in the course of the debate that we enjoy together with each other. So I don't know what else I can say, but you know, there's just no way you're being deprived of the opportunity to say these things. Councillor Elgar.
Yeah, Mayor Burton, yeah, I'm sorry, but the current section 13.2 sub 1 allows councillors to question before the motion is moved. And I guess I'm concerned that this shift of early discussion and clarification is out of the public eye in the first place. And I think this is where we as a council who are representing the residents get nailed and they're against us. So that's why I'm absolutely, totally against it. And I really feel transparency and openness is important, and it should be at the front end, not at the rear end. So I'm sorry, I just cannot support this this staff proposal.
All right, Counselor.
Thank you.
I hear you. But, you know, debate is not the rear end, it's the middle. The transparency is full. Nothing is suppressed. We're just talking about the order in which we do things. May I put the vote? Or do I have a second speaker and Councillor Hazletthiel? All right. Mr. Clerk, would you call the vote?
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor O'Meara?
Yes.
Sorry, just for clarification, we're voting on the amendment.
support.
We're voting on the main motion to pass the motion. Yes to pass the motion, no to defeat it.
Yes, yes.
Councillor McNeese?
No.
Councillor Dudek?
No.
Councillor Chisholm?
Yes.
Councillor Hazletthiel?
No.
Councillor Giddings?
No.
Councillor Elger?
No.
Councillor Longo?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes.
Councillor Knoll?
Yes.
Councillor Grant?
Yes.
Councillor Adams?
Yes.
Councillor Lischina?
Yes.
Councillor Chi?
Yes.
That is carried.
Thank you, everybody. Now, if we plunge ahead to 11.3, the aforementioned council staff relations policy, we have presentations from Andrea Coyne, the manager of elections policy and print services, and from Suzanne Craig, our integrity commissioner. Ms. Craig is attending virtually. And if we give our attention now to Ms. Coyne, we can begin this discussion.
Good evening, Mayor Burton and members of council. Staff are pleased to present a revised council staff relations policy attached as Appendix A to the report. The review is driven by the need to ensure the policy reflects current legislation, best practices, and evolving expectations around respectful and effective governance. The revised policy is the result of a series of both internal and external consultations, benchmarking with other municipalities, including our regional partners, and a review of best practices to ensure consistency and alignment with modern standards. Since 2019, the Council Staff Relations Policy has served as the foundational document supporting respectful governance. However, across the municipal sector, there is a growing focus on clearly defining council and staff roles to reduce confusion and strengthen collaboration. The proposed updates reflect this shift. And recognizing the varying complexity of council inquiries, the policy encourages members to consider the nature and the scale of their requests, whether it involves a quick point of clarification or a deeper policy analysis, so that the appropriate staff, resources, and process are involved. This approach supports efficient, accurate responses without discouraging open communication. And the goal is to elevate engagement, aligning staff support with the scope of council requests to improve outcomes for both council and the public. And the review is part of a broader phased effort to modernize the town's entire governance and accountability framework. And together, these efforts support consistent expectations for professional conduct, role clarity, and ethical behavior across the organization. Updates are driven by several factors. Bill 9, introduced in 2025, reinforces the province's focus on transparency and the role of integrity commissioners. And as Mayor Burton mentioned, I am pleased to say that the town's integrity commissioner, Suzanne Craig, is with us tonight to share her support for the revised policy and speak to Bill 9. Updates are also being driven by several factors, which include best practices. And internally, this supports our commitment to professionalism, employee well-being, and a consistent customer service experience. We've consulted widely, and the updated policy now centers around 3 guiding themes: ensuring a respectful, productive, and supportive environment. So the policy identifies 6 guiding principles that form the foundation of a respectful, productive, and supporting working relationship between council and staff. These principles are not just values, they're practical commitments that shape how we communicate, collaborate, and make decisions together, and they reflect the kind of culture we want to foster. The first principle is about creating a respectful, civil, and inclusive environment together. And council and staff both help maintaining dignity in every interaction, which builds public trust. Disparaging or disrespectful comments, whether about the town, council, staff, or individuals, are not acceptable. Concerns about staff performance should follow confidential internal processes, and any complaints about council members are to be directed to the Integrity Commissioner. The second principle emphasizes that we're all here to serve the community, and that works best when we respect our distinct but complementary roles. Council, as a collective body, sets policy, represents the public, and provides strategic direction. Staff runs daily operations, gives expert advice, and carries out council's decisions. A respectful and productive relationship depends on understanding these roles and on individual council members acting within their elected responsibilities. The third principle reinforces the importance of open, honest, and respectful communication. And to keep things efficient and clear, we use established channels. Routine service inquiries go to Service Oakville, unless a specific staff member has already been involved. Non-routine policy or program questions should go to the appropriate director. And for broader, more strategic matters, communication should go through the CAO or relevant commissioner. And external or out-of-scope requests should be directed to the mayor's office. This offers council and staff a scalable approach to request and share information. The fourth principle reinforces that council as a whole is responsible for setting service levels, and as the elected voice of the community, provides direction to the administration only through formal resolution or mayoral authority as legislated. And the CAO, as head of the administration, is responsible for implementing council's decisions and overseeing staff's operations. This structure ensures clarity, accountability, and good governance. Principle 5 ensures that all members of council are equally informed and empowered to make sound collective decisions, ensuring equal access to information to support informed decision-making. And identifying the role of the CAO ensures consistency, transparency, and responsiveness in how information flows to council. This builds trust, strengthens collaboration, and ultimately leads to better decisions for the community. And the last principle is about mutual respect, recognizing the demands on both council and staff. A productive relationship depends on valuing each other's time, workload, and roles. And a great example of this is providing advance notice of questions at meetings, which allows staff to deliver well-informed responses, as well as individual members refraining from directing operational work. Respecting time and roles helps everyone stay focused on strategic priorities and ensures that council and staff work together effectively to serve the community. The revised policy reinforces the foundational principles that council governs through resolutions, while staff are responsible for implementation through the CAO. It also clarifies protocols for handling complaints involving the mayor or councillors and confirms that the council code of conduct prevails if there's a conflict with other policies. And to support implementation, an internal job aid will be developed for staff. This will be a practical tool that will help staff confidently apply the policy while supporting effective council staff collaboration. So that does conclude my portion of the presentation, and I'm now pleased to introduce to you the town's Integrity Commissioner. She's with us virtually, Suzanne Craig, to share her review and support for the revised policy, as well as speak to the implications and considerations with Bill 9. Thank you.
Welcome,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Craig.
Good evening, Your Worship, Mayor Burton, and members of council. I'm pleased to be with you this evening to provide you with a brief overview of the alignment with your updated policy and Bill 9. The Bill 9, which is the Municipal Accountability Act 2025, is still being debated. As you know, I am the appointed IC for several municipalities, and I can confirm that I have been engaged in the update of many council staff relations policies, and that your staff has consulted me on your current update, and I can confirm that the contents of the policy do reflect the best practices in transparency and accountability industry standards. The town of Oakville has a comprehensive municipal accountability framework. While the Office of the Integrity Commissioner of, for example, the City of Toronto was created in response to a judicial inquiry into procurement scandal in 1998, Oakville and many other Ontario municipal governments voluntarily instituted your accountability frameworks with a code of conduct and an integrity commissioner until 2019, when all municipalities were required to have a code of conduct and IC. As you know, there are many municipal integrity commission frameworks in Ontario that do not address a comprehensive suite of provisions, and Bill 9 may be proposed to address these gaps. However, there is the possibility that the universal model code that will be put in place may lessen the robust frameworks in municipalities that have already done the work and have comprehensive codes of conduct, such as the recently updated Oakville Code of Conduct, which has a developed investigative procedure in its complaint protocol and incorporates industry best standards. Ontario municipalities are different in size, accountability regimes, and priorities. Elected officials in some municipalities are not full-time politicians, are employed outside of their elected position, and do not have staff to assist in the fulfillment of your roles. Elected officials in other municipalities work in that capacity full-time and are appointed to multiple boards and have their own professional staff. No matter what the size of the municipality, all Ontario municipal elected officials vote on complex, large-scale projects and deeply care for the well-being of its residents, communities, and businesses. Next slide, please. By way of background, to better understand what led to Bill 9, I invite you to recall that following the Bellamy inquiry, the City of Toronto enacted the City of Toronto Act 2006, which contained provisions for the mandatory appointment of accountability officers, most notably integrity commissioners. And these accountability and transparency provisions were also added to the Municipal Act through the 2006 amendments, creating the opportunity for all municipalities in Ontario to create these offices. In a 2016 Divisional Court decision, in referencing the role and expertise of a Municipal Integrity Commissioner, Justice Morocco set out the important findings from the Bellamy report. And in that report, Justice Bellamy stated, and I briefly outline on page 44 of that report, an integrity commissioner, she said, can help ensure consistency in applying the municipality's code of conduct. She said the compliance with policy, not just the code of conduct, but internal policies, improves when everyone is seen to be held to the same set of rules. She said that busy councillors and staff cannot be expected to track with precision the development of ethical norms, and so an integrity commissioner can serve as an important resource. An integrity commissioner, she said, provides significant profile to ethical issues and sends an important message to constituents about the municipality's commitment to ethical governance. And she stated that without enforcement, the rules are only guidelines. Although research shows, she said, that a values-based approach to ethics policy, focusing on defining values and encouraging employee commitment, is preferable to a system of surveillance and punishment. She said that where the public interest is involved, there should be a deterrent in the form of consequences for bad behavior. Justice Bellamy said the rules must have teeth, and that would be through the provisions of a code of conduct. So following the 2016 report that quoted Justice Bellamy's decision, it was clear that accountability officers and regimes throughout Ontario do not all function the same way. The Oakville Code, your code of conduct, contains the mandated rules set out in the provincial regulation, Regulation 58, but also has rules that cover many other aspects of day-to-day activities. And it appears that the intent of Bill 9 is to ensure that all codes across Ontario contain the same provisions to maintain consistency across the province. To be clear, while Bill 9 proposes to add a layer of accountability, municipalities should still and are required to develop strong policies to set out roles and responsibilities of staff distinct from council members, particularly around retaliation or workplace dynamics, and this will enhance the effective enforcement of ethical rules generally. The town's respectful conduct policy and related procedures are in place to promote a workplace culture of respect and dignity, and to provide clear steps for addressing and resolving issues when they arise. Your updated council staff relation policy underscores the guiding principle of mutual respect, shared responsibilities, and creates a bright line upon which the Integrity Commissioner I can rely on to enforce code rules. Bill 9 is about what consequences there should be after an egregious ethical breach has occurred and what mechanism should be in place versus the need to have strong internal policies to set out the understanding of roles and responsibilities through a council staff relations policy. Next slide, please. While I'm not here to speak on behalf of the province, in the role of Integrity Commissioner for various municipal governments over the last 17 years, from my vantage point, it appears that Bill 9 is proposing to strengthen the key aspects of a respectful workplace in Ontario municipalities with a focus on enforcement of egregious missteps of members of council. Council staff relations policies are required to stress the importance of mutual respect. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Clarify the distinction between the role of staff and a council member. Ensure there are strong confidentiality rules in place that are respected, a clear understanding of allowing staff to work in an environment of political neutrality, and a clear channel for addressing concerns of non-compliance. I understand that flexibility is very important to you, and you should not be impeded from the work that you were elected to do. The foundational principle of council, however, is that council may issue directions to employees through the Chief Administrative Officer, and that the council staff relations policy is in place to ensure that Rule 7 and Rule 9 of the Code of Conduct are enforced as it relates to interacting with members of staff. So what does Bill 9 propose? Well, it appears that the province is proposing stronger mechanisms of enforcement for what is called egregious missteps through enhanced duties for the local and provincial integrity commissioners. Bill 9 seeks to expand the application of municipal policies related to accountability regimes with respect to codes of conduct to include the removal of a member of council in exceptional circumstances undefined where there has been an egregious breach of those rules. This bill would enable the creation of a standard municipal code for all municipalities and code investigation processes with the intent of creating consistency. Bill 9 would create the role of the Integrity Commissioner of Ontario to provide oversight of the municipal integrity commissioners, including providing training to municipal integrity commissioners and to members of council. The choice of your integrity commissioner appears to still lie with the municipality. However, this bill appears to create a standard to be met by all integrity commissioners. How and by whom is not identified in the bill. And finally, the bill proposes to establish a mechanism to permit the municipality to allow the integrity commissioner, as part of her duties, to recommend the removal and disqualification of members of council and certain local boards for a period of 4 years for the most serious code of conduct violations. This mechanism would include council's receipt of a report from the local integrity commissioner, a concurring report from the Integrity Commissioner of Ontario, and a unanimous vote of council on the Integrity Commissioner of Ontario's report. If there is a unanimous vote, this would have council make the decision to remove the member from office, and the member would be ineligible for re-election or to sit on certain local boards in the municipality for a period of 4 years. Last slide, please. A primary purpose of Bill 9, therefore, appears to be to provide a mechanism to remove an elected member of council from their position in egregious misconduct cases that have caused, and this comes from the proposed bill, harm to someone's health, safety, or well-being, and to create a standardized code so that the threshold for such a determination of a violation is consistently applied by all integrity commissioners. However, there appears to be no clear language in the bill on the type of inquiry the Provincial Integrity Commissioner would conduct after receiving the Local Integrity Commissioner's report. It's not clear if the changes considered by Bill 9 are intended to function in a similar way to the process currently in place by virtue of amendments to the Municipal Act brought in by Bill 68. As you can recall, Bill 68 amended the Municipal Act, the City of Toronto Act, and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Bill 68 expanded the list of responsibilities of the Local Integrity Commissioner to include receipt and review of complaints alleging breaches of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. So currently, MCI allegations can be submitted directly to the Integrity Commissioner or directly to a court. And if the complaint comes to the Integrity Commissioner, she or he will investigate and make an application to court or decline and give reasons why. The right of application to the court remains for the applicant who brought the code complaint to the Integrity Commissioner if she declines to do so. In 2022, if you recall, MPP Stephen Blaise reintroduced the Private Members Bill 5, the Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act, which was tabled during the previous provincial government. This bill was carried to third reading but did not go forward. With Bill 5, upon completion of the investigation for harassment or other egregious missteps, the Integrity Commissioner would have been empowered to make an application to the judge, very similar to what she does with MCIA complaints currently, for a determination by the court of whether there was a violation of the code of harassment rules and if the member should be removed from office. And then a judge would make that decision. Unlike Bill 5, with the proposed changes to Bill 9, the Integrity Commissioner's recommendation of a member's removal from office following her investigation would require a subsequent report from the Integrity Commissioner of Ontario upholding that recommendation. And then rather than a judge, there would be a unanimous vote of all members of council. So the report would be brought back to council and council would decide if a member is removed from office. If there is not a unanimous decision of local council, the outcome that could result is that the member who has been found to have violated the municipality's code of conduct harassment rules or other serious rules still to be defined by Bill 9 may face no sanctions or remedial actions, and there would be no mechanism to hold a member accountable after they have been found to have violated the code. I'd like to conclude by stating that the changes could bring considerable costs to the local municipality, and Bill 9 does not include any language around how these changes will be resourced. My understanding is that there have been oral hearings at which subject matter experts, councillors, integrity commissioners, and others have submitted comments to the LEDGE committee, and that written comments may be submitted through the LEDGE committee portal until August 18th at 2 p.m. And so I'd just like to thank your staff for having consulted me on the update to the councillor staff relations policy. I'd like to also state that having worked on many of these policies with subject matter experts in various administrations, that I have not seen such a detailed review as the town of Oakville. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Craig. Councillor Elgar will be first.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I wonder if staff can send us the link so we have the presentation ourselves. And because I've been reading recently about this in the Municipal World Daily, and it's quite a report. And I loved your presentation, so I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Councillor, we have the slides and we will distribute them. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Your Worship. And this question is for Ms. Coyne, actually. So thank you very much, Greg. I don't know if that's appropriate now, Your Worship.
Councillor, any questions in order now?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much for the report here and for the numerous meetings and outreach we've had. I want to separate two things. I want to separate the relationship between council and staff members and what I would say is poor behavior, and I am completely on board with that. And I think and I'm really happy that we brought it in where residents as well and how they treat staff. We're gonna start clamping down on that because Lord knows we need it. But where I would like to ask a couple questions are on the role that councillors play with regards to our job in terms of policy development and direction to staff versus, I'm going to use, getting involved in operational things. We are really being pushed, and I know we've tried to use Service Oakville and rely on Service Oakville as a medium. Our residents expect us to be involved in operational things. That is the overwhelming majority of calls I get are operational issues. And knowing that, I guess my first question would be, what guarantees can we get from Service Oakville in terms of you will be responded to by this time? You will have, what guarantees do we get that when we go through that channel, that we have 100% confidence that by 24 hours, by whatever the timeline is, that we will get an answer and a response, and it will be somewhat right, I guess, not the wrong department was tasked, or somebody doesn't know what to do after hours, or they don't know it's an Oakville hydro box, or what is our confidence that in order to make this switch out of operational stuff, that we are not going to be left holding the bag that our residents expect us to be doing?
Through you, Mayor Burton. Thank you for your question, Councillor O'Meara. And we have Director Duarte here to speak to that.
Thanks, Andrea, through the Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. I would love to be able to stand here and say 100% of the time we're going to absolutely do that. We're striving for perfection. Right now, our stats do show us that about 86% of the time we actually do meet our service levels and respond to resident inquiries. I think, in all honesty, part of the problem is we've trained residents in some instances to go to counselors to get service, and they don't necessarily need to do that, particularly for those more operational issues. As you know, you were all invited to participate in a customer experience survey that we rolled out earlier this year. And we are working on a refreshed customer experience strategy, which will bring an accountability framework for the end-to-end processes for how we actually intake some of these calls. So Service Oakville is the front door, and certainly that's where we gather all of the information. We don't have the process perfectly aligned end-to-end in the organization. So right now what happens is we take the information and we pass it off to a department that needs to respond. And Service Oakville kind of done at that point. And I'm not sure that that's the right model. Service Oakville may need to stay involved to make sure that that end actually happens. And sometimes those timelines are 24 hours, sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's months, depending on what the issue is that's been brought forward. So our guarantee and what we're trying to do is actually bring accountability and have residents be able to track their cases through Salesforce. That's why we want them to go through Service Oakville, so that we can actually give them a case tracking number and they can log back in and see where we're at. Certainly, there's been instances where things have fallen off the radar, and I know some of you have reached out to me directly or to other directors, and we will do our best to make sure that those instances are responded to as quickly as we possibly can. My intention is definitely to try and help council and directors in the organization focus on the bigger strategic issues and the things that demand that sort of attention, and have these operational things dealt with by frontline or management staff that should be dealing with them. So that's my goal with what we're doing. And we are coming back to council in October with our customer experience strategy, so you'll get a bit more of a flavor of what we're looking at with that then.
Okay, thank you with that. I'll get back to the question about why don't we wait then to do this until we're comfortable with the customer relations strategy first before we align ourselves from a policy perspective of go down the path and hope it works later. I'd rather make sure it's working now and then we go down this path, but I'll park that for a second. We have a path for routine questions, non-routine questions. What we don't have a path for here is urgent routine. And I use the overflowing garbages on the boardwalk on Friday at 3 o'clock afternoon question, and what do you do about it? Because you send it to Service Oakville and you might hear back on Monday, on Sunday or Monday, or there's a car driving, blocking a crosswalk, and you try to get bylaw out there and they come at 5 a.m. and they say, we didn't see a car there. And that the call was at 6 at night. So where is in this policy of what we do when our residents are the eyes and ears in our communities, and the first thing they do is call us, especially if something is more urgent of nature. What is the policy here for what we do under those circumstances?
So I'll turn it back to Andrea to speak to that. From a Service Oakville perspective, we do have triage triggers. So some of those things, when they come in, should trigger that's an urgent issue that needs to be addressed. If that's not happening, then I need to know because there's a flaw in the process. Some people may feel that their issue is urgent and it might not be an urgent issue from our perspective. So those are the sort of things, the nuances that we have to work out. And we have to look at staff resourcing. I know there's lots of MES issues that come in that we just aren't resourced to have an officer go out to every single one of those. So some sort of triage has to happen to say which one takes priority over the other. That's the Service Oakville answer. Even when we have after hours on, they do have indicators to them that when something's got to be escalated, and they do it. Again, it doesn't happen 100% of the time. I'm going to hold my hat on 86% of the time we are getting that accuracy, and that's a pretty good number, but we are continually working on it. So Andrea, I don't know if there's an answer on the policy side.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. I think that has come up in some of the consultation meetings we had with council about an issue that I would describe as non-routine. So if we are speaking of an instant of a matter that would fall under that non-routine inquiry, then the policy does identify to go through the CAO or the appropriate commissioner. However, in the case of something that should be channeled through Service Oakville, there is the after-hours emergency line as well. And I do welcome CEO Clohessy to add in any additional comments to that.
So through you, Mayor Burton, actually I wanted to address the question I think that you were saving till later, which was bringing this policy forward later once we've fixed Service Oakville into the service that we intend it to be. And I would suggest to you, the decision to move to a Service Oakville was actually made by this council several terms ago, and I don't actually have the date. And the reason it needed to move to that process is because the number of inquiries we have coming into this municipality, and I know that Lisa can describe the number, the volume of inquiries that come in. We needed a more simple, more straightforward way to triage them and deal with them through processes. And so to return to something other than Service Oakville is really not a place that we can venture. Because Service Oakville is an important piece for us to understand the knowledge base of how we move things forward. It's a place that we can track everything that we do. It enables us to improve the processes. So it's been a service that's been there for some time. What this council staff relation policy does is sets out a scalable approach for council to bring forward inquiries that they have. Service Oakville is the very first step. We are, as you heard from the director, absolutely committed to improving the services through Service Oakville because it's the best way to maintain the quantity of inquiries that are coming in. But if there's policy-related matters, certainly the director is available to do that. If it's regular business within their area, those things can come forward. But in order for policy changes to actually happen, it would be through a council direction. So inquiries can come in through those avenues, and as staff will provide you with whether or not it's something we do on an ongoing basis and we're able to incorporate that into what we do because we do it normally, or if it's something that's beyond the scope of what we currently do. It's an opportunity for you to bring something forward to council to either request for a report, request a motion, bring things through budget committee. So the importance of bringing this forward at this point in time, as Andrea has said, is to recognize the changing nature that we have in front of us. I will say that I think that the policy that's here really reflects the relationship that council and staff currently have. It's a good, strong relationship, and this actually just puts it down on paper in terms of the principles that we would like to see for future councils. And I think that that's what's recognized here. So that was a long answer, I recognize that. But I do think it's important we have this adopted at this point in time because the ongoing work in Service Oakville is going to continue for some time.
Yeah. Madam CAO, excuse me, Councillor, could you just draw that to the end? There's a premise in the question that councillors are not that they're being deprived somehow of the ability to call the director or the commissioner or you when they have an urgent matter. And could you just, clarify for the counselor and the public that the policy as shown in the slides and as restated by Ms. Cohen a second ago still contemplates counselors, individual counselors, calling directors, commissioners, and CAOs as may be necessary?
Yes, it certainly does. It starts with Service Oakville as a standard operational matter to come through, but then it is a scalable approach for you to approach the directors, the commissioner, or the CAO in any of the matters that you want dealt with, and for information.
I'll let some other councilors go, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, under next steps, you talked about the internal staff job aid. Could you just provide a little more detail on that?
Through you, Mayor Burton. Thank you, Councillor Giddings. So it is, it has been developed, and it will be providing staff the ability to consistently apply the policy and to help them understand what their role is. Part of the job aid, the training that will be involved with staff will also be to allow staff to understand the challenges that members of council face with members of the public not understanding governance operations at all times and not understanding perhaps the role that council plays and the authority that they have in certain circumstances. So it really will be an opportunity to train staff to help them better understand the distinct but complementary roles that council and staff play, which should in turn help to allow staff and council to collaborate more effectively.
Great answer, thank you. As councillors, will we have a role in that process, or will you train us at the same time?
So through you, Mayor Burton, we are going to work on resources that at the moment we are looking to bring into the council orientation and onboarding session for the new term of council, but we will absolutely keep council up to date on resources that we can provide to assist them in understanding this policy more as well. And while the internal job aid will be intended for staff and it will be internal document, it absolutely will be shared with council.
Great stuff. Last question is, in terms of having the questions provided in advance, I wouldn't have asked that question if I had to have had it in prior to the meeting, because it was Councillor O'Meara that triggered something and got me thinking about a few things. So I understand and appreciate that some questions that get asked may require more effort or information from other departments or other people. In the past, I've always appreciated being able to ask a question and have the chair or the CAO or director say, great question, leave it with us, we will get back to you. And I'm concerned if that we're going to lose that ability.
Through you, Mayor Burton, absolutely not. No, we still obviously encourage questions that may arise during council meetings. It's simply if questions in advance are known and you're able to ask them ahead, and you may still ask them during the council meeting, of course. But if questions are known in advance and can be provided to staff, it may give them the opportunity to collect the data or the information that they may need.
If I can just add on that, absolutely, it doesn't limit the kinds of questions that come at council. Actually, what we feel it will do, and it's a suggestion in the policy, it's not a requirement, because certainly questions come up during the council meeting that you'd want to ask. But I think what it does is makes the council meeting and the information provided to the public much more wholesome or fulsome and more complete, so that you get the best answers when you actually come to council that staff can provide, because we've had the opportunity of understanding what your concerns are ahead of time. So it is a suggestion in the policy, and it really is to make more transparency in terms of the council process.
I agree fully, and I will continue to provide questions in advance, as I often do now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Giddings. And it's an opportunity to reinforce that, remember in the early part of the presentation that when there's doubt, the procedure bylaw is paramount document. And as I took great pains to explain earlier, right there in the conduct of the meeting, questions are called for and permitted. So next is Councillor Elgar, then Councillor Longo.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. With regard to Service Oakville, have they considered whether if it's a ward-specific issue that we are copied on what the issue is in the response that staff provide? Because and recently, and I've sent it off to appropriate staff, that people then fire it back at the counselor and they're saying this is a disgusting, I want something done. Like, how do we handle that? Is there some way we could know ahead of time what's happening before we get residents calling us and they're not very happy?
Thank you for the question through the mayor. We do ask residents when they call in if they want their counselor notified. So if they do indicate yes, then we can do that. But if they haven't indicated that, we don't have the liberty to just involve the counselor. If you're involved, right now, our process, we respond to the individual who sends in an inquiry. So if that's you on behalf of the resident, you get the first auto-generated email and then any other updates. We are toying with our process a little bit to include counselors in the response when they're copied initially so that they have an understanding of what's happened and they know if the case is closed and been dealt with properly. We're just trying that right now to see if it actually gets the kind of response we're looking for. We definitely don't want to send counselors many more emails that you don't need if you know they don't need to be there. But I hear you on understanding the process. There have been a few, probably more problematic cases where we did have Service Oakville staff call the counselor to say, just want to let you know this is where it landed. And that seemed to be welcome because they were more contentious issues. Definitely not on the more operational things. I don't think it's realistic to think we could do that on all of them. But if there is that opportunity, if you're copied in already and you say, please include me so I know what's going on with this case, we can definitely do that.
So if they send an email to Service Oakville, is there a box to click, also the counselor, or is it only if they phone in?
I believe if they do it online, it's there as well.
It's there as well. That is good to know, because by the time when we get as a counselors, when we get the email, they're obviously not very happy, and so this is good to know that they have the option in the first place. I truly appreciate that. I wouldn't want the job. One person I would say is that there's a guy called Chris Mark, the director there, that if you want to get action, you call him directly. And I'm sorry, but maybe put him on a special assignment to help out with everything there, because he is something. Over 25 years, I've never seen anybody like him.
Thank you, Councillor Elgar. You're one of the, in terms of the traffic I see on Service Oakville, I commend the way you copy me and you send your items to Service Oakville, and I get a courtesy copy. It's very good behavior. I really appreciate it. And when it's in your ward, I do reciprocate.
Thank you.
Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wanted to make a comment and then ask a question, but thank you, Andrea, and thank you, Integrity Commissioner Craig. It was an excellent report. I think it really gives clarity as to accountabilities. That helps with everyone and kind of understanding. And I'm kind of seeing, by having Service Oakville as a way of tracking, one of the things is about trends. So, and I see the loop now that if there's trends that come up, you can bring them to council to say, hey, maybe change your policy, maybe there are budget implications, but it really kind of closes that loop, the ability to track, look at the trends, and then see, if it's the response time for noise complaints or if it's, garbage pickup or whatever it may be. It allows us to kind of understand the roles and responsibilities, and it becomes really kind of clear. So I'm very supportive of this, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Longo. Councillor McNeice.
Through your worship, just to clarify in the Service Oakville and having a checkbox or something like that to notify the councillor, I'll periodically use Service Oakville through my personal account regarding stuff, and we've sort of been notified by a constituent as well that there doesn't seem to be a box to notify your councillor in any way. So maybe if we could just double check that. I know I get copied on stuff if I'm originally on the chain, but I've never seen that, and I've used it as recently as a few days ago. So if we could just triple check that. That'd be great.
Through the mayor. Sure, I'll double check for I know for sure when they call in, they are asked the question, but I'll double check the online.
I usually go online. I haven't called it, but just on the online, if we could check, please.
Certainly.
Thank you. And over the phone too. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Haslett-Hill.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. I do have one question for the Integrity Commissioner. It strikes me, and and you may or may not wish to comment, but one of the challenges with Bill 9 and this whole ability to try and remove someone is the unanimous decision. And I'm just wondering, have other integrity commissioners or yourself spoken to that as a bar that is unattainable except in well beyond egregious? We all know of a couple places that it would hit egregious, but colleagues that I've spoken to in other municipalities have commented that the unanimous decision is a bar too high, even though they are going through incredible pain. Is that been conveyed to your knowledge to the drafters of the policy?
Through the mayor to you, Councillor, thank you for your question. So the comments that I've seen from the integrity commissioners, and there is a loosely held group that meets occasionally to discuss best practices, Municipal Integrity Commissioners of Ontario. The comments have gone from the requirement for unanimity of the report coming back to council is a form of political interference, to the other side of the spectrum, which says very clearly that should there be an opportunity for an ethics officer who is not elected to be able to recommend removal of a member of council. So I think, again, I cannot speak for the province, but the comments that have gone to committee have been fulsome, that the opportunity to actually receive a unanimous vote of all members of council to have a member vacate their seat is improbable, if not unlikely. And so in essence, what this proposal and mechanism is saying is that there will be a tiered investigation process to, on its face, have checks and balances, so the public is not disenfranchised by having their elected member removed. But with that tiered process, you have an ethics officer conducting an investigation only with egregious situations, and then the second level with the Provincial Integrity Commissioner, will that be a de novo investigation or just a review to determine that there's been procedural fairness? And after those two set of eyes have been on that issue, it goes back to elected officials to say, do you agree with removing your colleague? So I will not opine on what I think about that. I do know that many of my colleagues have had some concerns with that.
Thank you very much for that. My other questions are for staff. There's been some discussion about when we ask questions of staff in advance on an agenda item. Based on how this is written, will the answers that we're receiving be published, both for us and the public?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I might turn this over to CAO Closey. Thank you.
That's an excellent question, actually. I think we had thought that we would share the answers among council so that council would have the answers to those questions. There's nothing preventing a councillor from asking the question in a public forum, so that the information that was provided would then be provided in a public forum. But I saw it more as a conversation between the councillors and staff in terms of getting more information so you could make a decision. But we are suggesting in the policy that it circulate to all of council, so all of council has the benefit of that, and not circulating to the public unless you direct us otherwise, because you always have the opportunity to ask that question in a public forum.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. In terms of the kinds of items that are non-routine or routine, so classically during building season, where things are in the queue, people feeling like they're stuck They don't have clarity. They have a contractor who has access to their program, the app. They don't. Are we considering it a non-routine or routine question for us to kindly just follow up and say, where is it in the queue?
Through you, Mayor Burton, in the definition section, we do have a definition of routine inquiry. So I would believe that your question would fall under the first bullet. In the ordinary course of business, constitutes a type of communication that would typically occur between a member and the public and staff. So to me, that would fall under that, but I do open the floor for anyone, any staff to add to that.
So through you, Mayor Burton, I would only add that agreeing with Andrea entirely in what she had said. We are, as you know, just in the process of moving a lot of the building services, because it is an area that we get a lot of inquiries into the Service Oakville realm. So in the past, you would have gotten in touch with the building. They have an online and a phone number. Those things are getting moved into Service Oakville. So I would agree, it is a routine matter that will now be coming through Service Oakville.
Okay, thank you. So when, if this passes tonight, will there be an explanation to the public about these routine and non-routine for the public? So further to Councillor Amira's comments about, they have some expectations of us, and there might be a shift in how things are followed through. Dave and I have often said to people, it's really important you put it through Service Oakville because that allows them to track. But there are folks that will want to, need to appreciate this is a slight change in the rules. And so will that be communicated to them?
Through you, Mayor Burton, at this time, there's no planned communication to the public. It's training that we are gearing towards staff to ultimately understand the roles of both council and staff. But again, I would encourage council to continue to direct routine inquiries through Service Oakville and to encourage the residents to use the services that Service Oakville can offer. And I do welcome Lisa to add, or Jane, thank you.
Through you, Mayor Burton, I would just add that Lisa had spoken about the customer experience work that's being done right now. I think when that comes to council, that's an opportunity to more accurately communicate the Service Oakville and how best to deal with the town in terms of a customer relationship. So that would be the time that we'd focus on the conversation with the public about how they get information at the town. I would agree with Andrew, it's not through this. This is a policy that describes the relationship between council and staff.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. And my last question is just around ward information. So there are times where things are just really very ward specific. A cement plant that's beside us in Ward 3, downtown. There are pieces that are, downtown's not a good example, but the Ash Grove plant, Amazon, all of those, they're very ward specific. So I personally have an interest in all of what's happening, but how does this improve the receipt of information to the ward councillors about calls that are coming in or issues that are bubbling that we need to be aware of?
So through you, Mayor Burton, I would say what Lisa spoke to earlier with respect to improving Service Oakville in terms of communicating to the ward councillors when residents request that, but also when Principle 5 speaks to fair and consistent access to information. And so I think that is a key principle to ensure that all members of council have equal access to information. And one of the discussions that we've had along the way, and this will be important to the job aid, is to ensure that when responses are provided, so if a commissioner or the CAO is involved, then the ward mates will be copied on responses when applicable. I don't know if Jane wishes to add anything more to that.
I would just build on exactly where Andrea is going. The policy does speak to CCing the ward mate, or the job aide will speak to CCing the ward mate, but also in cases where there is a question that's being asked because there's an item on the agenda, that will go out to all of council, so council will understand it, will understand the questions that has come in. And another example would be where there's a town-wide issue. We're looking at fireworks, for example, and a question comes in relative to fireworks. We would ensure that from the staff perspective, they would understand that those emails should really get CC'd to all of council, so all of council has a good understanding of what questions are coming in and what is happening. I think that would improve the information that you as a ward councillor would get for townwide.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that line of questioning. It prompts me to observe that in my time as your mayor, I have never found a councillor who forgot that our duty is to the entire town and that we have to make a joint and collaborative decision. And so I've never known a councillor who didn't want to know about the issues that might be ward specific, simply because we're so intertwined. We all have friends and relations all over town. I'm pretty confident every member of council will be concerned about Ash Grove if anything untoward develops there at the cement plant. I know I'm following it very closely, and I don't live in Ward 3. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Your Worship. And so just to sort of tie a bow on the Service Oakville stuff, and Lisa, sorry, I'm sorry about this, but it's just, and I know it's probably over exaggerated for us councillors, but this is what we get every day, and this is where we live. And I appreciate the 86% number you gave us, but just to circle back to what CAO Closey said, we made this decision a couple of council terms ago to proceed, and that's great. I just don't want a ride or die perspective on this. We made the decision and we're going over the cliff with it, right? So is it Salesforce that we use to operate Service Oakville?
Through the mayor, yes it is.
So have we ever considered an external audit of the system, of the program, of Salesforce? Have we ever looked at, is this the right path? Maybe we need to stop renovating the building and we need to build, at what point do we go, it's been at least almost 10 years now, maybe, we just can't get to where we want to be with what we've got here? At what point do we look and go, maybe we need other eyes to look at this because we've been so enamored with it and we need to take a different look? Is there a point where we look at that?
Through the mayor, yes, Councillor. I have been in discussions with the director of IT where we are talking about, but neither one of us was here when the Salesforce purchase was made. There are very few CRMs on the market that would have anything different to offer other than Salesforce, so I'll just say that. So I think a CRM is a great tool. It doesn't matter if you have Salesforce or a Microsoft product or whatever. They do provide you a lot of great insight into your residents, what their needs are, and how we can better serve them. So I think we've tiptoed into Salesforce. We didn't go, in other municipalities where I've worked, we went full into using the technology. We've done it at a much slower pace here. And we've seen the call volumes increase. So right now, on an average day, we get about 675 calls into Service Oakville. Sometimes that goes up to 1,000, sometimes it might be a tiny bit less. But that's a lot of calls. And what we see is about 1% of those actually end up going to councillors. So Salesforce does allow us to build, first of all, a tracking system so we can see when the resident inquires. We know what they've inquired about in the past and how long has it been since someone's got back to them. It also helps us build our knowledge base so that we can actually get better at answering these questions and inquiries that come in. Without the CRM, the relationship management system behind it, we can't do any of that. However, we did talk about, Dave and I have had discussions about doing a little bit of an analysis on what have we got here with Salesforce, because we don't have the full package. There are other components that, of course, we could buy. Everything comes with a big price tag. But we just want to do a little bit of a reset on what did we buy, where are we at, and is it the right tool for us going forward? So yes, it's on our radar, and we are discussing it.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I God knows it's complicated, and I get that, and I appreciate that, and thank you for all the work on it. I just want to make sure that when we talk in this report about efficiency, and we talk about, you know, data, and we talk about all this, the number one priority is to serve our residents, and it's not to get data, it's not to, you know, minimize, it's to serve our residents, and I just want to make sure we keep that at the top every time we're revisiting systems or trying to look at these things. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm sure we all, including staff, agree that we're here to serve the customer. And again, this policy is not a ride or die commitment to service Oakville. There are still, this policy maintains council's channels to directors, commissioners, and the CAO. So you're not being cut off. Councillor Nolan.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for the report. I want you to know I fully support what's been written and the presentation, and thank our Integrity Commissioner for her excellent summary of the legislative landscape. I do just want to touch base a little bit on Salesforce. I do know that when this was first being implemented years and years and years ago, there were a number of councillors who were disappointed that we couldn't have access to Salesforce because, as Councillor Elgar mentioned, by the time somebody gets to us, it's usually a more problematic situation that and instead of recreating the wheel, it would be helpful for councillors to be able to see what steps were taken, so we're not contradicting staff or being played, so to speak. So I know the ship sailed on that. There's some degree if some piece of this is about confidentiality and consent. But I think one of the compromises was at the time was that we had this really nifty dashboard and some frequently asked questions that we were provided. And I remember sitting in the training room and being shown the system, and it looked really good. But all of a sudden, a couple of years later, maybe even later that year, the links disappeared. I just wondered, is there ever any consideration to giving us access? I know we can't have access to the individual constituent information without consent, but having dashboard information to types of cases, time to resolution, all those kind of KPIs that business executives use to determine how their team are working in the field, to give them a better sense of how things are working. It would be nice to know what the issue of the day is, or the issue of the week, or the issue of the month, just to understand, have a better sense of what's happening in the community. Salesforce is an incredibly powerful tool. And you can literally get anything out of Salesforce. I've used it extensively in other applications, and I know that based on the reports that you create, the applets that you create, et cetera, you can create dashboards. And even the one that we had in early days was great, but it seems to have disappeared. Is there any opportunity or any desire or willingness, or maybe even a plan in place to be able to provide some of that information to help us do our jobs better?
Sure, thank you, Councillor. And through the Mayor, we do provide monthly stats in the Council portal for all of you on the questions that come into Service Oakville by ward, that you can see what the main issues are. I will double check and see if there's more stats we can provide and what was in the original dashboard, but there is information available to councillors every month in the Council portal that you get a sense of what's going on with your ward.
Yeah, I'd appreciate if you can, and you just put the nail on the head right there, hit the nail on the head in your ward. What I'm interested in seeing is, and to the Mayor's point a few minutes ago, we represent, I'm elected by the voters of Ward 5, but I have as much responsibility for decision-making in Ward 1 and 3 and 7, God help me. And I think it's important to understand the metrics across the board. That's why I really liked the idea of having that dashboard so that we can go in and look at it when we wanted to. I used it extensively for the time that it was there, and I found it incredibly useful. But for some reason, something happened, it went down, we were told it was down, and never came back again. Happened with a couple things, including the ownership layer on the GIS mapping, and a few other things that sort of disappeared. There was a promise to come back, and never actually did. But it'd be great if somebody could look into that, because I think that it'd be a really useful tool for us to understand what's happening in the field.
Councillor, maybe we can cut to the meat of what you're asking for. If I ask the CAO if there's any reason why each councillor can't have all of the ward reports. There's you might have a town-wide summation as well, so you want to see the big patterns. And I think that would be a wonderful thing to provide councillors with. I didn't realize that they only got their own ward.
I had understood that they got all of the municipalities, so each one of the wards, as well as the town total.
Oh,
So all the information for each one of the wards is on the council portal.
oh, Counselor, good news. The wish is granted before it's asked.
Right. I think though you're missing you may be missing the nuance. What I had appreciated and what was sold to the council of the day, and I'm not trying to be, I support staff and I'm not blaming staff, so please don't take it the wrong way. But when this was presented to us for decision years and years ago, again, the concept was that we'd have access, and we asked for access to everything. We were told we couldn't. It was justified legally. Ship sailed on that, fine. But what they gave us in return, it was a dashboard. So KPIs that could be accessed whenever we chose to. You can look at things up to the minute, not wait till the end of the month, not pick through data that has been curated, but actually be able to see what the pulse on the street is. So that's what we had. I don't know what happened to it. I'd love to get back to that. I do appreciate that additional piece of information, but I guess if I could just ask for one thing is perhaps staff go back and with everybody's approval, that staff go back and look at it. There may be ways that we can get non-identified KPIs and dashboard information on a real-time basis, because I know that Salesforce can support it. We had it before. It'd be lovely to have it back again. And with that, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Counselor. I will pursue it offline with staff, and we'll see where we get.
Thank you, sir.
Madam CAO.
I was just going to say, we heard you loud and clear, Councillor Knoll. We will look back in terms of what was provided before, compare it to what we have now, and see what other improvements we can make to it. So, yes, we hear you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Councillor Haslett-Thiel.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. Two follow-ups. One is I liked hearing about triage, and Lisa's taken lots of pushback tonight. But it's great to hear that there's this triage system in place. I just sometimes when we don't know how you are prioritizing, like we talk about how we set the service levels. Well, triaging is a service level. And so if there's an opportunity in the reporting that comes out in budget, where you tell us all the wonderful things that you've done or are going to do and why you want more money, if some of that information about service improvement, real data that helps could be shared, I would just ask that be considered. I mean, it's just feedback. Mm-hmm. But the other I would just want to reflect on is calling a director or a commissioner on Friday night, Saturday, or Sunday is a bit of a, it's uncomfortable. I don't really, I think I do have Jane's number. I think I might. I don't know for sure. But the after-hours service is still an opportunity. And that's when the phone starts to blow up. And the emails start to come. And so if there's an opportunity as you continue to work on the customer experience, I didn't want to lose the chance to say, please, the weekend, somebody's in the building Monday to Friday, but on the weekend, we're the contact and happy to take their calls, but probably better that I have somebody who can solve the problem.
Through the mayor, we do have Answer Plus as our after-hours service. They are trained. I know they're not at the same level as our staff who do the job every day, but quite frankly, CSR's, the Work and Service Oakville, it is an entry-level position. There is a lot of turnover in call centers. That's just what happens, nature of the beast. So sometimes, even our staff, we have to spend a little extra time because we've got new people on board. But I hear you, and I will continue to look for ways we can improve weekends and after-hours.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Well, Council, who would like to move and second the item? Councillor Longo and Councillor Elgar, thank you very much. We appreciate the work from Ward 4 tonight. Is there any objection? Mr. Clerk, there's no objection and the item is adopted. Council, for the confidential discussion item, would you like to deal with that by passing the public recommendation that the confidential direction provided in the legal department's confidential report titled Expropriation Settlement Offer dated July 29th be approved? If so, can I see a mover? Councillor Duddick, thank you. Councillor Chisholm, thank you for the second. Council, any objection? Mr. Clerk, there's no objection, and that is adopted. We took care of 12.2. You have your staff memoranda, and we have new business. There's a notice of motion, and I hope I haven't skipped it. Okay, I think we're good. There's a notice of motion from Councillor Gidding, seconded by Councillor Duddick, called Advancing the Full Implementation of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Acts. And it's quite lengthy. I don't propose to read it unless the councillors, normally this would be at the next council meeting. Is that satisfactory? All right, thanks everybody. There's, I know of no regional reports or questions for town boards and advisory committees, but we do have a request for report, which is, was delayed from at least one council meeting ago. And that concerns asking staff to do a report on the manifold ways that we can improve the customer experience and the public safety during fireworks usage, especially in crowds. I think I summarized it that way. Councillor McNeice is agreeing. And you've been sent it. It's very similar to the last one. The difference is that this version recognizes that a request for report can't direct implementation of things. It's a request for report. The decisions about implementing are after you get the report and consider it. So we've got the horse in front of the cart now, and Councillor McNeice, we got a lot of hands on this matter. Councillor Elgar.
Thank you. Through Burton, I'm just trying to figure out the residents only access. How is it going to be enforced without undue hassle? Like, if I have friends visiting from out of town, would they be able to come with me in the vehicle and go? I just don't quite understand how we residents only we will ever be able to handle and how we would do that.
Sir, Councillor, what are you talking about? This is about fireworks.
Yes, that's right. And the overall is about a measured and reasonable resident safety perspective.
Right.
With regard to the from what I read out of it,
right.
That
so
I thought it was very, very on target. So maybe I'm wrong, but I was thinking it had in there, well, how residents only will be allowed. Am I incorrect?
No, there's no decision being made here, only a request for report to make recommendations on these matters.
Yes, but it was about residents only. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm just trying to figure out what that means.
I could imagine the report might very well deal with that.
I sure hope so, because if I have friends and we want to go down and see the fireworks in Bronte, like that, but it's like I think I read it correctly.
Right, but the only correction I'm offering is that it's not making that decision now.
No. I'm just highlighting that as an issue I would have. Trying to understand how they would ever do it. So
I'm sure
thank you.
I'm sure the councillors are grateful for the advice, because it is a bit of a warning that there are other than residents who we don't mind having here.
Got it.
So
thank you
for that. Councillor Adams,
okay.
Your turn.
I have similar questions or concerns about the request. It's written in a way that I think it's intended to say, here, this is the motion that we wanted to pass, but now we're asking for a report on it. And so it's a little bit confusing in the way it's presented and written. And that's, I think, perhaps why the questions are coming forward. Some of the contents of what we're being asked to ask our staff to report on are things that I don't think I could support. Asking that we're going to take measures that we're going to start searching people's bags as they come into Bronte, I think is a little bit problematic. And so I can imagine what our staff are going to report on and what they're likely to say, which is, no, we're not likely to be able to do that. I appreciate the direction that the councillors are asking for further work on. I think that this is a significant issue, and It's not we didn't get to where I hoped that we would get to on this matter. But I do see some of the issues here that came up in the public debate and discussion that we had. And so I'll support the request for report. But I did want to make sure that our staff are taking this as an item that they're going to report back on all these items and not to further move forward on detailed analysis of some of these things that I don't think are likely to be able to proceed.
Well, Councillor, I think you can take that for granted. Certainly on search, I'm expecting the legal part of the report to say who has powers of search and who hasn't, and you know what the criteria are to get a warrant for search. So and who can even get one. So there are a lot of details there that it's easy to forecast what the answer is going to be, and I appreciate the note you've given. And next councillor with his hand up is the chair of the police. He may even underline some of your concerns unless my telepathy isn't working here. Councillor Knoll.
Well, it may be a Karnak, the magnificent moment. I just want to, first of all, as councillor, I want to say that I do support, obviously, this report, this request report. I understand that there's a lot of very blue sky and ambitious suggestions in it for staff to investigate, but I do think we have to think outside the box, and I do think that we need to make sure that we're, turning over every rock and stone and coming up with every possible idea coming from other jurisdictions and elsewhere. So I do support it. It's going to be a lot of work for staff to go through this, but I think it's an important issue. It's a situation that seems to grow every year in Bronte, and we certainly, as a council, need to do what we can to help address that on behalf of the residents. As a police board member, I just want to tell you that this is a matter on our agenda in the upcoming board meeting at the end of this month. I will welcome the referral of the motion to that meeting to add as an input to that session. I do know that the staff have worked hard internally to review what transpired on that day, both on Canada Day as well as Victoria Day. Some of the successes and the failures and something in between. They've analyzed footage and they've got some insights already. The board will hear about that later this month, probably mostly in confidence because it will be dealing with investigative matters. But certainly it will help advance the matter from the police perspective. I do know that the service is anxious for support from the municipality in some of these areas that fall under municipal jurisdiction to give them some teeth to help in some of these areas. And so I think it can inspire some cooperation and again, some out-of-the-box thinking from the police service perspective as well. I do want to say that there was a suggestion made and it's been accepted at the service and at the board. It will be a board-sponsored event, but we have accepted the suggestion of having a community meeting in Bronte, likely in September. We didn't want to do it during the summer for obvious reasons, so that members of the public can both have the questions answered by the police service and hear feedback and suggestions as well. So from the police board perspective and from the police service perspective, it is a very serious matter. We are taking it seriously. The board has taken an active interest in it, and we will take this direction from council that's contained in item 4 as early as the last Thursday of this month, which is our next board meeting.
Right. I would only correct that the council knows well, I'm confident, that we do not direct the police board or the police. And especially, I want to underline that every member of council knows that no member of council may direct the police to do anything.
If I said direct, I apologize. I meant to suggest, because I'm intimately and keenly aware of that. It's literally a daily matter of business for me that I have to deal with from all our council colleagues across Halton Region.
That's right. I know officers who are startled when a councillor is shocked that they won't do what they tell them to do.
Thanks for that correction.
Councillor McNeese.
Thank you, through your worship, and I appreciate the questions and potential support on this staff report request. We wanted to leave no stone unturned because this problem has been escalating every single year. The last 3 or 4 years, twice a year, stuff that I never thought I'd see in my life. on the front lines of a youth mob, thousands of kids, or, up to 1,000 kids, shooting fireworks and explosives. And everything in here has come from bylaws and other places, and the measures they've had to take. We're not the first place that's had to deal with this, but it seems like we're getting all the kids from the GTA. But in BC, Mississauga's had some problems in the past. There's certainly examples of collaborative approaches in the States that have dealt with very serious issues. So we're taking this very seriously, and we want to leave no stone unturned. I believe in the Municipal Act. There's powers. I won't get too much into it, but I have talked to legal and understand some clauses in the Municipal Act. If there's certain high-risk zones, there are narrow things that you can do that's still within your charter rights. So I believe if we have our staff, and appreciate the support from the police board, look into this further, that we're hoping we don't have to get to the point where we have to cancel events and things like that because of some unruly kids. And it's really a small number of kids that we know exactly who's carrying these fireworks. We just can't do anything about it until it's too late. So we're putting all our effort into prevention, getting ahead of it, because we've learned that we can't police our way out of it. We can't arrest our way out of it. These are children that we're dealing with. It ties up resources every time they arrest someone. Despite we've been working year round for the past few years with almost every department to try to prevent this and manage it. But, we're putting every option out there, and we're glad that we have the support from the police, and we'll have a community meeting about it as well. And I'm optimistic that, we will be able to find some approaches to deal with these 2 days of the year that are just wreaking havoc on our community. So I'm hopeful we can get the support to move forward with the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McNeice. You certainly have my support, and I agree with you that it's outrageous, the level of misbehavior. Council, I'll put the vote. Is there any objection? Mr. Clerk, there's no objection, and the request is approved. Council, the only thing we have left to do is the consideration and reading of the bylaws. Councillor Lischineth and Councillor Knoll, thank you. Any objection? There being none, the bylaws are considered read and passed. And unless I'm wrong, we have come to the end of our work this evening, and we have not gone past the hour. Let everybody celebrate that. And the meeting is over. Good night.